All right, guys. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us again. I have a great guest joining me today. I've got Polina here with me, and she is calling well, I guess you said you're originally from Boston, right? But you're in travel at the moment.
That's right. I am traveling at the moment to our headquarters office here at PPG and excited to do this podcast, share some of my perspective on innovation and technology. Thank you, Brendan, for hosting me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was a great introduction, and you kind of alluded to the fact that you do work for PPG. But just for the listeners out there, can you just give me a brief brief introduction of who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. I am Polina Ware. I am currently Global Director for Innovation and Technology at PPG. PPG is one of the largest coatings company across the globe, focusing on coatings and paints everywhere, from making a coating for your airplane to making a coating for your can to making a coating for your wall. So we're very much present in all of the markets and technologies where you would see a polymeric coating. Myself, I'm a scientist and a chemist by background. I have a PhD in polymer science and engineering, and I've always been in chemistry, kind of like hard science, chemicals, molecules world all of my career for the last 15 years. And now with our technology emerging and changing so fast, I'm taking steps into AI and digital world, specifically focusing on digital chemistry and digitalization of R&D.
That sounds amazing. What an amazing resume you have. I mean, I've done a little bit of research and I was, extremely impressed. And leading the global R&D and innovation team at PPG is amazing. It sounds like you're overseeing labs across continents, and as you mentioned, integrating this AI ML into this packaging chemistry. Can you tell me, like, what are some of the early experiences that shaped your ability to be able to drive and lead this innovation at scale?
Sure. I would say two key factors that influenced my career the most. I've always liked science and technology and always been good with math and physics ever since I've been a little girl.
Mhm.
But doing a PhD especially made me realize that although I like science, for me, it feels kind of lonely to spend so much time in a lab by myself. And even during the PhD time, I really enjoyed interactions with other students, other scientists, faculty. So I realized that I'm more of a people person and I need to have a balance between the science and people. This was part one, and that's kind of how I steered towards, the management and director type of a career. And second, I've seen so many innovations die in my career, and I really believe the right innovation is the innovation that brings value to the customer and also value to our world. And I want to apply my talent, my skills, and also amplify my team's talent to really make meaningful inventions for our world that are scalable, useful, and good for our environment. And for background, I joined PPG because I love what PPG stands for. Our mission is to protect and beautify the world. And we really stand by it by using sustainable materials, being one of the global leader in using the best chemicals we can, the safest chemicals for humans and for the environment. And we really pride ourselves in being a leader there. And that's why I love working for PPG. So I would say these two things, really enjoying working with people while still staying in the realm of science, but also really trying to help to kind of focus on the right innovation that helps our customers, helps the world, versus just innovations that kind of die and never commercialize.
That's really great, and what a great testimony to what drives you and what gets you up every day to, it seems like, really make a change and not only help people, help companies, but help the world, help the planet in general. That's awesome. And yeah, going to this idea of this AI revolution, I see that you even contributed a chapter in a book to speaking to this AI revolution. And can you kind of dig a little bit deeper into how this technology, how AI is helping to reshape chemistry? What does that look like? And I guess what's the most mind-blowing way you've seen AI change the game essentially in, material science or product innovations?
Yes, that's a great question, Brandon. And yes, the book AI Revolution is a really interesting book. Anyone listening to this podcast, I would definitely suggest to go and look at it and look for what's relevant to you. And the reason why I contributed to this specific book is I think it's so wonderful that it's written by so many authors who are leaders and experts of their field, like myself. But each chapter covers specific topic. My topic, of course, is on R&D and chemistry and technology, but there are many other topics like AI in medicine or AI in fashion, like whatever, right? And it's written by top experts in our field. In my specific case, I believe AI and digital science can do so much for the world of chemistry, and our world is changing. I mean, we're all living in the middle of technology revolution that only happens 10, 15 years and really changes the way our whole society works. That's what we're experiencing right now. We're at the onset of this, and there are so many questions, good questions, but also questions that kind of make you think, right? Like, at what place a human stops playing a role and the artificial intelligence takes over? And also, do we want to give so much control to
Right.
artificial intelligence? There's so many debates in the industry about that. But in the world of science and chemistry, I see maybe like four major ways in which it impacts science and technology. One, ability to search documents and access to knowledge, that is huge. For science, for technology, there are a number of programs similar to ChatGPT or Grok or Perplexity, but they're specifically written for science and technology, kind of similar to GPT deep learning. And there are so much softwares and startups emerging in that space that help scientists to search information, patterns, new molecules, existing molecules, all of that. It amplifies how fast you can go with your innovation. That's all the external search. It used to take a scientist weeks and weeks and weeks to read all the papers in their field. And I remember, right, I used to go to the library during my PhD, get a cup of coffee and read all these papers and try to design my experiment. Now I can just put all these papers, write 50 papers if I want to, into a search database and just say, read them, analyze them, and give me summary and suggestions on how to design my experiment. I mean, that's amazing. That makes me 10x smarter, right? Really fast. So there is that. Then you can use the search engines for internal searches as well. That's meaningful for chemical companies because there are so many scientists that write technical reports, so much internal technical data, and there are also electronic notebooks that most companies use now. So if you're a new scientist, let's say you're a new PhD and you're coming in, having ability to search everything that your specific company has done in that area of science is very helpful because it also accelerates your learning and it helps you to start at a stronger starting point. So searches are big. Then ability to write patents, having AI kind of as an assistant to help you write patents faster and identify where to patent, that's huge too. And finally, the piece I'm really excited about is ability to use digital science to make version of our chemistry in the digital world. Now, why is this helpful? If you can design a digital twin of your chemistry in the digital world, you can use it in two ways. You can say, I would like to design a chemical system with the following properties. For example, you could say, I want a coating that has this type of flame retardancy, this type of stability in the sunlight, and this type of, anti-scratch property. Please help me to come up with a chemistry in this general group of chemistry. And then you can use AI program to really design the chemistry you need to design to meet your desired properties. Now, this is really hard to do for a polymer because a polymer is not like one molecule. It's a whole network and there are so many parameters. It's like a net, that can be folded in many, many ways. So it's a bit challenging.
Yeah.
But that's one way. Another way is you could have a chemistry and you're almost there as a scientist. As a scientist, you know a lot, right? You've been trained for 10 years to design this chemistry. You worked for another 10 years. That's 20 years of experience. So you're almost there, but maybe you're failing on one specific property. Maybe your adhesion to substrate, to what you put the coating on, is not quite there. Then you can use AI and say, this is my chemistry, right? And then you can play around with it. You could say, if I use version A, what adhesion will I get? If I use version B, what adhesion will I get? If I use version C, what adhesion property will I get? And you can kind of play with it in the digital world without ever doing anything in the lab, which is amazing. And it's a huge accelerator. You know, I believe every company is working towards that piece right
Yes,
now. And some
absolutely.
companies more ahead than others.
Hmm.
But that's definitely the next frontier of what AI can do.
Does that translate well to the real world, what you test in the digital world?
Yes, if you have good, accurate models, it should translate really well. To do it well, you need to have very good understanding of your chemical structure. This is why we already see it done in the field of medicine and drug discovery, because in that field, it's a molecule, and there are many variables there, like the shape, the structure of the molecule, all kinds of things there, but it's one molecule. Network or a polymer coating is thousands and thousands of molecules, so you amplify the variation by so much, so it is hard to do. But there are ways to do it. There are ways to do synthetic data, do deep learning to actually teach the models with a lot of new technologies like agentic AI, physical AI. All of those areas are going to help, but it's hard to do because you don't know the exact polymer structure. You can know a structure that's really close, but a lot of times you don't know the exact structure. And then for companies like PPG, other big companies as well, like BASF, Covestro, a lot of times we work with a bunch of vendors to buy our raw materials. So we don't always design all of the pieces of our chemistry ourselves.
Hmm.
So then you might not know the
Exactly.
chemistry because you buy it, right? You can do certain things and experiments to come as close as you can, but at the end of the day, you don't know. And that's a challenge. That's a challenge everybody is trying to overcome.
Absolutely. And so you've spoken on sustainability and circularity and kind of novel materials, particularly in food contact coatings. So how are you balancing regulatory demands for or environmental goals and commercial feasibility in these product developments?
Yes. So that is a really difficult thing to do in real life, actually, because the unfortunate reality is that chemicals that work really well to make a coating are not very good for humans and for the environment. You do the best you can, but as our technology evolves, as the ability of we can do gets better and better, we get more and more regulatory constraints. Also, as a humanity, right, as a society, as we learn more about these chemicals, the regulatory requirements become more and more strict, and they are actually the most strict in Europe, and then Asia, and then US, which should be no surprise. So in US, our rules are most relaxed, and but when you design a coating, you want it to have global ability to sell. So you tend to design it towards the country that has the toughest
Mm,
requirements.
mm.
So then you can manufacture it across the
Across
world
the
and
yeah.
sell it across the world. But it is difficult to do because once the government makes a decision, you must find a replacement, you have to find a replacement. And a lot of times, this more sustainable or solutions, they don't work as well in your coating. And that's a challenge because then there is like a property loss. So you try to offset for that loss with other chemicals or try to make it work or come up with completely new chemistry. Or in some cases, when this happens, you try to convince the market, your customers and the users, that perhaps the new property will never be as good. Like, for example, I don't know if you noticed this, but we all know this clear saran wrap that you use to wrap your,
Food.
vegetables or a sandwich. It's like this clear wrap that you
Yeah.
use.
I used to have it all the time. My mom, that's how my mom would give me my sandwiches when I went to school. Wrapped in
Exactly,
saran
like
wrap.
we
Yep.
all use it, and it's such a convenient product. And it used to be like really sticky and wrap really well. And if
Mhm.
you look at it now, it doesn't wrap as well. Like it doesn't adhere to itself as well,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
started to use it,
Yes.
it's because the chemistry changed to be safer for you
Wow.
as a human, but you lost the property that was so convenient for everybody in terms of it wrapping really well. So now you have to use more of it or accept that it's never going to be as
Never
good.
going to be this. That's crazy because
Yeah.
I have noticed that, but I didn't have the background. That's interesting. Wow. Well, I'm assuming it's healthier now, right? I mean, I guess maybe,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. But it's healthier now. But we sit here and we talk about this. I want to make it clear that we talk about parts per billion. You know, even with existing chemistries now, they are safe for a human to use. And to really be exposed to it, you need to go very significantly over limits
Okay.
because in the chemical world, there are multiple things. There are two key things that play a role on your health. It's the chemical itself, but it's also levels of your exposure
Mm.
to this chemical. So, for example, in all those coatings, you can have a chemical that's, yes, like in theory, it could be toxic to a human, but you have to have so much exposure. Like it would take you
All at
several
once, right?
lifetimes.
Okay, so because if I'm assuming like if you're using, let's say you've used this product for years and years and years, and you continuously use it, you're not getting it all at once. Does that affect it as well? Just the amount of times that you're using it and possibly consuming some of the, like, I mean, if I had a sandwich a day for 12 years or something like that, does that, you're saying that that wouldn't be as effective in that one example, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like in that one example, like, yes, like all at once is bad, but there is certainly like some chemicals, right? And I'm not just talking about coatings, I'm talking the world of chemistry. Some chemicals are accumulating, like PFAS. So they accumulate in your body over time. And at some point it hits like a threshold that's unhealthy. Sometimes a lot of exposure is okay, but all these regulations are really strict,
Uh-huh.
and they are super tested
Yeah,
to
because
make sure
everybody's
they're
obsessed with
safe.
like microplastics right now, like the amount of
Yes, yes, for
microplastics in the
sure.
blood. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And yes, like you have to be careful of microplastics. And there is a very big movement to eliminate microplastics from our environment. And we are focused on that at PPG, right? Our competitors are focused on that at PPG. And using AI and digital science, all of that is a huge plus because it allows us to move faster. And over time, it will allow us to do all these experiments much faster and to come up with better chemistries, not only for our customers, but for the world in at a much faster R&D scale. And that's what it's all about for me.
Absolutely. I guess also switching to the topic, different topic of kind of the mindset that you go into to all of this with, or just your mindset in general. I read that, or I think it was maybe an EMBA that you did at Kellogg, but or somewhere along the lines, you emphasize this idea of low ego and high impact leadership, and I found that really, really interesting, as in many different ways. And I was wondering if you could kind of speak to this idea of low ego, high impact. How is that applied? How is that philosophy applied, on your day-to-day activity, or when you're managing, global or cross-functional teams through digital transformation journeys?
Yeah, so that is also a great question, Brandon. And it definitely took me some time to learn this. And actually, like out of all equations in the world, my favorite equation is like this. It's that like leadership equals in a numerator, like on the top, it's the impact you make plus your knowledge divided by an ego. So the lower is your ego, the more impact you make.
Mhm.
And your impact is everything. It's your knowledge, it's your executive presence, it's ability to develop other people. I've learned through my career that having ego doesn't help. And once you become a people leader, it doesn't matter that you're the best. Your people have to be the best. And your number one job is to help your team and your people to be their best, to help them grow and shine, and to enable that. And that's where your ego comes into play.
Mhm.
And the further you go in your career in terms of leadership roles, actually, the less of an ego you need to have to be successful. Because your role really becomes about making an impact on your business, delivering results, making sure you execute, deliver on things you promised. And a lot of times, execution ties into, yeah, like helping your people do the best jobs they can. That's what leads to execution. It's having clear goals, it's having processes that help with the execution, and it's enabling your people to to do whatever they're best at. And I think that's actually where most people thrive in their careers, is if they find that like something special that allows them to be their best. Because I will elaborate on this a little bit. We all have our inherent innate strengths and weaknesses. And if you focus on amplifying your weaknesses wherever you are, the best you can do is average. If something is your weakness and you ultra focus on getting better, you will be average. But if instead you let your weakness be where it is, and you ultra focus on your strengths, your natural strengths, and for example, for me, it's public speaking, it's making decisions naturally because of my background. If you focus on amplifying your strengths, you can be exceptional, you can be great. So on my team as a people leader, I try to really focus on figuring out what is the person's strengths and how can I help them amplify their strengths, and how can I reassign something that's their weakness to someone else.
That's so awesome. So awesome. Very inspiring and insightful. I like that. I like that a lot. So you mentioned, your strength being, a public speaker, and I've also read, that you've built a reputation as a mentor, and as a thought leader as well. What's the motivation in investing in public speaking and community and the knowledge sharing that you do? And maybe, a message that you most want young innovators or technical leaders or folks that may see themselves in you. What's something that you might want them to hear or know?
I mean, again, I would go to that. I would, right, to a healthy limit, I would try to focus on like whatever like is your strengths and whatever brings you, happiness and a sense of fulfillment in your life. It might be coming up with the best invention, right? Or starting your own company because you believe in your idea so much. You bet on yourself in a very significant big way. If that's your passion, you should go after it and you will figure it out. If your passion is, being a people leader, I tend to be a people leader. People are my passion. It brings me joy when I see other people in my circle do well. I also tend to be a connector. I connect people. I connect ideas. I connect strategies. That's why I tend to be good at my role, because I tend to be good at envisioning what the future looks like. But my strength is to kind of paint a vision and take my team on a journey of what that could look like. But I'm not necessarily the best at making that vision a perfect detailed reality, and that's where I need the team to help me with the execution and to help me. I can see this. AI is coming, for example, in a big way into science and technology. Let's do this.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
need the team to do this. So I think focusing on your passion, no matter what, is actually good advice. I have not always felt that way. I have a child who's 10 years old. And, before I became a mom and before I've been, through this journey, the PhD, the MBA, executive career, I always thought like, I want my child to be a scientist like me.
Yeah.
I want him to be an engineer.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's not going to be successful in his life unless he's an engineer, because it's like a hard science. You can be a terrible engineer and still have a job. How many fields are there where that's possible? Very few. But now, actually, I want him to choose something reasonable that amplifies his happiness and his strengths, because I think people tend to be more successful if they're in alignment with that, if their career is in alignment with that, because it doesn't feel like a job, right? It feels like a balance.
Absolutely. I'm a parent of two as well. And yeah, you have these ideas of how you want to make sure that you're positioning your children for the best, and maybe they need to go into this career. Ultimately, as you said, it's about, whatever fulfills you and makes you feel the best is, when you're going to be happy and you're going to wake up looking forward to doing it, doing what you love. And it's not going to feel like work, and you want the same thing for your children. Yep, I agree. Polina, I thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, and I think it was insightful. It's going to be inspiring to the entrepreneurs, the R&D folks, the innovators across the globe here, whoever's watching. So I thank you so much for giving us that bit of insight. And like I always like to give you the ability to shout any social medias or where they can find you if you got any articles or books or white papers or whatever you're publishing. feel free to let us know.
Definitely. Well, I'm definitely really excited about kind of transitioning my career to being AI leader in chemistry and having a voice there.
Uh-huh.
I am excited about the book where I just published a chapter, AI Revolution. I think it's a great book overall. I certainly put a lot of thought to make it useful to someone who reads it on AI in chemistry and technology. And otherwise, of course, I have multiple keynotes coming up at all kinds of conferences. But all of that comes up on my LinkedIn. In general, my other point I'd like to make is
Please.
I love making connections and I love having interesting conversations. So the best way to connect, just reach out and yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn and we can go from there.
Well, there you have it, folks. I appreciate it. I'm sure you'll probably be getting a lot of questions or people reaching out to you. So I thank you once again, Polina, for taking the time, and it was my pleasure. Thank you guys for joining us, and until next time.
Great. Thank you so much, Brendan.